everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going over how I did on the Journey Through the Bible and Cozy Cottage Readathons in the month of October. So these are the two readathons I participated in the month of October, and I'm here just to kind of wrap up and say which prompts did I complete, which books did I read to complete those prompts, and that's mostly going to be it. I'll give you an idea of what I thought of the books that I read, but I'm not really going to go into my full thoughts on the books. But before I go into that, I'd like to talk a bit about what my plans are as far as wrap-ups. Because in one of my September vlogs, I made the comment that I was kind of hoping my monthly, bi-monthly, however often they would be, vlogs were kind of going to replace wrap-ups. However, in the month of October, I realized I had 5 vlogs planned that would somehow cover all of the books that I was wanting to read in the month. I did drop one of them because I just realized I did not have time to get to all of them. One of them was the weekend reading challenge, which is already up on my channel. And then I had 3 other vlogs. And one of the biggest problems I realized is the fact that I knew it was going to take longer to edit vlogs than just the sit-down videos. I don't think I realized exactly how much longer it was going to take. And so I think at this point I'm going to limit it to 1 or 2 vlogs a month, because I do like doing the vlogs, mostly because I do have a little more leeway with when I can film. What I think I'm going to try to do instead is at the end of each month, or really at the beginning of the next month, I will have a wrap up if I participated in any readathons in the previous month. And then at the end of each quarter, and I'll do it by season, so it'll be like, this will be September, October, November right now. At the end of each quarter, I will wrap up all of the books I've read that quarter. For one thing, you'll get to hear about more books in one video. I have some months where I read a lot of books. I have some months where I only read a few. So having it over 3 months, I think might make more sense, because then there's going to be a consistent way that my wrap-ups work. It also means that I'm not going to be rambling on and on and on about every book I read, because I don't want the video to be forever long. Now, if there are just way too many books, I might split it up into 2 parts. But I'm hoping to just kind of do a quick, more of a rapid-fire wrap-up. At the very beginning of my channel, that's what I did for January, February, and March. And honestly, I think I prefer doing it that way, because it gives me more books to tell you guys about in one video, instead of you get 3 books in this video, you get 4 books in this video, maybe you get 5 books in this video. But it also kind of forces me to condense my thoughts on the books so that I'm not just talking your ear off forever on every single book. That's what I'm going to try for now. And it's going to not be the most pleasant when it comes to the fall wrap-up. That one will probably have to be divided into 2 parts, because I read 11 books in October, and I want to say I read at least 8 or 9 books in September. So these last 2 months have actually been bigger reading months, so it might need 2 parts. But there are some changes I'm planning to make when it comes to 2025, and I think it will make these wrap-ups a little easier. I'm not going to say any more than that. I'm not going to go into my goals for next year yet, but I think that these quarterly wrap-ups will make more sense with the way I'm planning to do things next year. So it's going to be a little rough when it comes to the fall quarter, but hopefully the winter quarter, it'll kind of balance out a bit. So I think that's all I have for right now. That was a very long introduction. So let's go ahead and get into the readathons themselves and what books I read for them. So the first readathon I'm going to talk about is Journey Through the Bible, and this one was hosted by Katie from Paperbacks and Ponytails. And I'll try to have the graphic up here so you can kind of see what it looked like. But essentially, you were required to read at least 5 books for this readathon. Each one covered a different part of your journey and what you were doing in this readathon, and at the end of it there were a list of booby traps and ways to escape. And so if you chose the right way to escape for your particular booby trap, then you would escape and you would survive your journey through the Bible. So the first section was, where are you going? And for this one, I chose to go to Egypt, which the prompt for that was to read a book set in biblical times. And for that one, I read Until the Mountains Fall by Connelly Cosette. And I did really enjoy this book. I think it was good having a break between the books in the series because I read the first and second books last year. And honestly, by the second book, I read the first and second books in this series last year, and I also read the third book in her Out from Egypt series last year. And so I think by the time I got to the third book, I was getting a little bit burnt out. So I didn't end up enjoying that one as much. And it might partially be the story itself, but I think I was also just burnt out. But came back to this one this year, finally, and ended up really enjoying it. And then the next part of your quest is, what are you hunting for? And I decided to hunt for the Dead Sea Scrolls, which was to read a book published before the year 2000. And for this one, I read Honest Faith by Charles Spurgeon. This was a read-along hosted by Tiffany from Beautiful Minutia, Dia from Novel Idea, and Chrissy from Chrissy's Purple Library. And I really enjoyed reading through the book. I also really enjoyed the live streams on this one. This is the first Spurgeon that I've ever read, and I definitely want to read more of his books. Then the next one is, who are you going to meet? And for this one, I ended up choosing Tomb Raiders. I don't know if that's necessarily the best choice, but that's what I went with. And this one was to read a murder or cozy mystery. And for this one, I read The Mysterious Mr. Quin by Agatha Christie. This is a short story collection of 12 stories following both Mr. Harley Quinn and Mr. Satterthwaite. Specify that because every story is told from the perspective of Mr. Satterthwaite. Mr. Quinn eventually shows up in all of them, but he is not the POV character. So if you go in reading these and you get confused, this is why. Then the next one was Booby Traps. And for this one, I decided to go with Walls Closing In. Sorry, I can't read over my graphics. And that one was to flip a coin between two books. And the book that ended up winning the coin flip was Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. However, I did not make it very far in this book. I'm on chapter 5. So I did not finish this book, which part of me was like, does this mean I survived? Because I didn't fall into a booby trap. I didn't finish the book. But that's not how it works. So ultimately, yes, I failed my journey through the Bible because I didn't even finish my booby trap book. But the last one is How Do You Escape? And for this one, I chose Bullwhip, which was to read a popular new release. And for that one, I read The Nightmare Virus by Nadine Brandes. And this one, I loved this book. I don't think there's a book by Nadine Brandes yet that's gotten less than 4 stars. Now, had I actually completed Six Crimson Cranes, would I have survived my journey? No. I watched Katie's video right before filming this, and no, I would not have, because the way to get out of Walls Closing In was to use the spearhead, which was to choose a book with a random number generator. So no, I did not. The bullwhip was to escape the booby trap of filling with sand, and that was to read a book you can finish in a day. And I don't think I read any books that I could finish in a day. The closest would be The Love Detectives, which is honestly a single short story, but it was the only Harley Quinn mystery I hadn't read as of finishing The Mysterious Mr. Quin. So I did go ahead and read it. I obviously read it in a day, but that would have been the only one that would count, and I don't know that I really want to count that because it is a short story. So, I did not end up doing that booby trap, and my way of escaping would not have allowed me to escape from the booby trap I did choose. All right, then the other readathon that I participated in was the Cozy Cottage Readathon, and this was hosted by Chantel from Chantel Reads All Day. And again, I will have the graphic up here. But this readathon was focused on being in a cozy cottage and some things that you might do if you were at a cozy cottage. And for each one, she had both a physical prompt and a book prompt. And for the most part, from what I understood, the physical prompts were either to literally do the physical thing that was listed or read a book while doing the thing that was listed. So I'll go over the physical prompts first because I feel like those I was a little more iffy about. as to whether or not did I actually complete them or not. There were 7 prompts in total. The first one was rainy day, and my understanding was just read a book on a rainy day, and I absolutely did. I actually read Wuthering Heights on a rainy day. It's the only rainy day we have had this fall so far, but I did do some reading while it was raining. The next one was to read next to a fireplace, and also I did this on both the day that it rained and the next day, but I read more of Wuthering Heights while I had a fireplace ambiance going in the background. I don't actually have a fireplace, so that's as close as it gets. The next one was to read with a blanket, and there were numerous times that I read on the couch with a blanket, so I very much finished that one. The next one was Under the Trees, and I did not fulfill the physical prompt for this one. I don't tend to read outside. I don't have a good place to read outside, and so no, I did not go read Under the Trees. I'm also always concerned about bugs. So then the next one was fresh baking, and I did bake some brownies. I feel like I did some other baking too, but that's the only one I can think of right now. And then there was In the Dark, and I did read In the Dark a lot because I tend to do most of my reading at night, mostly after the kids have gone to bed. So I did a lot of reading at night, or I should say I did a lot of reading in the dark. Next was On a Hike, and I did not go on a hike. I did not read on a hike. I did not go on a hike, so that one I didn't complete. And the last one was Drinking Tea, and I have had a lot of tea in the month of October. I know this is coffee and a book, but I do like drinking my tea as well. And I don't know, teas just felt really refreshing, especially in the evenings. So I have been drinking a lot of tea. All right. Then going through these again for the book prompts. So for Rainy Day, the one that I read was The Mysterious Mr. Quin, which was fitting because this was actually Chantel's pick for her Agatha Christie book club in October. And I read it for her readathon. So, but I picked this one because of the idea of like, on a rainy day, it feels kind of mysterious. It's a good time to read a mystery book. And so this was a mystery short story collection, so I counted it for that one. Next one was Next to a Fireplace. And for that one, I read The Nightmare Virus by Nadine Brandes because there is fire on the cover. I don't know how well you can see it, but here in the middle, on those pillars, there is fire. Then we had With a Blanket, which, again, I chose Six Crimson Cranes because feathers, down blankets, it made sense to me. But I didn't finish this one, so I did not get that one done. Next was Under the Trees, and I was going to read Deviation by Amy L. Warden, which is still sitting on my shelves. I'm not going to go grab it, but unfortunately I was not able to get to this one. And my reading slump in the middle of the month is really the biggest reason why I did not get to as much as I thought I would. Then the next was Fresh Baking, and the one I chose for this was Soul Music by Terry Pratchett, and I only made it about a dozen pages into the book. I'm very, very behind on that one. And just looking through, I couldn't think of any other books I finished that would have fit this prompt. So, unfortunately, I didn't complete that one either. Then we have In the Dark. The one that I chose for this one was The Years of Rice and Salt, I think is the title, by Kim Stanley Robinson, because it has a very dark cover. However, I did not end up reading that one. But since I did read Wuthering Heights, I ended up counting this one because 1, it is a darker story. And 2, I was very in the dark on what this book was about until I read it. So it kind of fits in a couple ways. All right, the next was On a Hike. And for that one, I read Until the Mountains Fall by Connelly Gossett because whenever I went on a hike as a kid, it was always when we were camping in the mountains. So that's what I went with for that one. And the last one was Drinking Tea, and for that one I read Honest Faith by Charles Spurgeon, and I picked this one because it's very short snippets, like 3, 4, 5 paragraphs per section, and so I think it was the way Chantel described it in her announcement video that you could read a short story collection because you read it one story at a time and you drink tea one sip at a time, and as short as these sections were, this very much felt like a one sip at a time type of book. So that's what I counted for that one. All right, so those are the readathons that I participated in the month of October. Let me know if you participated in either of these readathons and how you did in them. Also, if you read any of the books that I mentioned today, feel free to let me know what you thought of them in the comments below. And other than that, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you later.